After a solid month of editing and programming, I was so excited to finally see all my work in its entirety outside.
This was the point in time where we finally had the opportunity to test our DMX lights with our brand new constructed stage. Stay tuned.
So we set up a table outside with my laptop computer hooked up to the controller so I could make changes in real time. It was very fun to see my hard work for months on end go from concept to reality. At this point, we fell in love with DMX lighting. We could easily change a red light from a blue light to anything we wanted. The possibilities were endless. We could control the brightness, the dimming, and even make lightning effects. We were no longer locked into single color gels, which we would have to use for the remainder of the haunt. We found the DMX lights to be extremely reliable when working outside. Regardless, we still covered them each night to protect them from condensation. The second most exciting day was the night of our first dress rehearsal.
You know, it was an exciting night to finally bring our actors on stage and allow them to begin to practice their parts on this new set we had constructed. As these actors began to understand what they needed to do, it quickly became apparent of the complexity of what was needed. You see, these guys are not drama kids at all. They're just fellow high school friends of Jacob's who tend to be sports guys and video game players. They were used to just being in their own room inside the haunt, where they could kind of have the flexibility to do whatever they wanted to. This year, timing was critical. They had to hit certain marks at certain times. They had to have certain costumes on and certain props in hand. They would also have to reset props at the end of the show. This was very different than previous years. Our first 2 dress rehearsals were pretty rough because this is a stage show. The actors were challenged to tell a story behind a mask. They didn't have any facial expressions that they could use, nor lines that they could tell. It all had to be done with actions. So this was hard for them initially. We had to really coach them to overact with their hands and with their body language. To them, it seemed ridiculous at the time to overact with such large motions, but they quickly found out that's what's important in a show like this. By the time we had our 3rd dress rehearsal, things were beginning to be dialed in. The miners had their exact timing on the pickaxes. The actors knew exactly where to be and what time to be there. The actors knew they had to have this body inside the chest before it began to close. About the only flexibility they had was at the very end of the show, where the bright lights hit and then scare the heck out of the audience in whatever way they wanted. I think this was the most exciting part of the program for them because they had lots of flexibility to do whatever they wanted. I gotta tell you, I was really proud of these guys though. Each and every show, they improved their timing and actions. In fact, they started adding their own twist to their role. In fact, they got so confident with their roles that in that final scene when they come rushing out, they would often rush right out into the audience and even into the street and even across the street. It became a problem where we had to go gather them up out of the street and force them back into the entrance to start the next show. I thought for sure with 6 actors over 6 nights, we'd have to provide some alternates, that we'd have some of these actors flaking on us. But these guys were so into it that none of them missed a single night. With around 100 shows in total, these guys nailed it. It was so exciting to see this stage show come to fruition. It was something that we didn't know if we had the talents to put on. We didn't know if we had the technology or the talent to make it happen. But in the end, it worked out brilliantly.
The challenge we had this year was how we were going to scare people from a distance. This is new to us because usually our actors get pretty close to our guests, but this could not happen this year. So we had to think of new props and new ways of how we were going to scare people this year. We came up with 4 ideas. The first one, a head on a bungee. We had seen a prop similar to this, but it was beyond our price range. So we were thinking, how could we make our own? We thought there had to be some sort of sports trainer where you could throw a ball out and have it come right back to you. When doing our research, we found a volleyball self-trainer on Amazon, which was just perfect. We simply just put our own mask on the volleyball. We also had to replace their waistband to a boogie board strap that went to your wrist. It was my favorite scare that we created this year. Another challenge was how to sneak up on somebody in an open environment. The idea we came up with was to blind them so our actors could sneak up in that split second. We did this by pointing 2 bright lights directly at our audience. This turned out to be one of the most dramatic sequences for the whole show. This is an idea that my Uncle Ed came up with. It was absolutely genius. The last 2 were effects we used in previous years, but we amped them up a little bit. We created 2 large boxes that housed our air cannons. We engineered them with PVC pipes so they would split off in 3 separate directions. Lastly, we routed PVC pipe to 3 separate towers so we could soak guests with water. Both the water and the air cannons were uniquely timed to the program.
It took 3 months to put together and was definitely a labor of love. A lot of heartache and a lot of joy. We've put together this video to share some of that heartache and joy with you, so maybe if you decide to go down this road, we can save you some steps and some heartache of your own. So Pirates Cave Origins 2020 was the most difficult show we've ever put together, but the most rewarding as well. To be able to take on something like this that we've never done, to write a story, to deal with a stage presentation, to deal with all the new technologies, was quite the challenge. But to come out the other end and have the success that we did and the great positive reviews and feedback is just very rewarding.
Okay, what? That was incredible.
I mean, I was just so speechless of how good that turned out.
Fantastic work there. Really just blown away.
It was just a phenomenal story told.
Professional quality images, graphics, lighting, acting. That was great.
And I gotta tell you, as the dad in this scenario, I was really proud of this guy. I mean, yes, I did have some of the experience that was needed to put this show on, but what I did was I just kind of showed Jacob the basics of how to do it, and he just took it and ran with it. The perfect examples are the editing. You know, I showed him some basic stuff in Premiere. He'd already learned Premiere in school, and he just took it and created a 2-screen presentation. He did all the sound effects editing. He did the social media marketing of it. He programmed all the DMX lights. I was just really proud of this guy.
For me, this was our best season yet, and I want to thank everybody that made it out on all 6 nights because it was just incredible, all the people that showed up. I learned a lot of important skills this year, but the most important thing I learned is to not sell yourself short. Just because you're a kid doesn't mean you can't learn this stuff and can't be successful. It takes a lot of hard work and patience, but in the end, it's a great payoff.
So we'll see you next year for Pirates Cave 2021. Thanks for watching.